Call to order. Have a quorum, a full house with Steve on Zoom, so we will do roll call votes. First order of business is to accept the minutes of the August 13th regular meeting. Second. All those in favor, Steve?
We lost them.
No, sorry, yes.
Melissa? Aye. Pete?
Yes, I.
Peter? Okay. I wasn't there.
You can abstain.
I will abstain.
Okay.
But I very much. And all for sounds leading a good discussion.
Yeah. Steve, we can hear that.
There's a background noise.
Okay.
Thank you.
Sorry, I thought I'd muted, sorry.
All right, visitor comments. Before we go to public hearing, is there anybody here that wants to raise anything that is not currently on the agenda? All right, hearing none. We do have on the agenda to go into have a second public hearing to discuss acceptance of $30,000 public service CDBG grant for the Boardman Cottage, and I believe Reed from Mid-Coast Council of Governments is joining us here to give us a little bit more information about that grant and program. First, I would entertain a motion to enter a public hearing. So moved. Second.
Second.
Right, all those in favor, Steve? Sorry.
Yes.
Melissa? Aye. Pete? Peter?
Aye.
Jay? Aye. All right, we are in public hearing, and Jen, is there anything that you wanna say before we
No,
hand it over?
I will just let read, and we have a bunch of things to sign after this, if you all choose to sign them, just to make you aware.
Great. All right, welcome, Reed.
Yeah.
Thanks for joining us.
Hi, good evening. So I'm Reed Silvers. I'm a planner at Mid-Coast Council of Governments, who is assisting Islesboro and the Boardman Cottage with this grant. So we were awarded the $30,000 that we requested for a new heating system and new and expanded appliances in the Boardman Cottage kitchen, so they can improve and expand their Meals on Wheels program. So they'll be getting a refrigerator, freezer, kitchen island, and the new hybrid water heater and boiler system. So it's really exciting. So we got awarded the money, and now we're entering the phase 2 stage, which is where you'll see all those the forms that are for the select board to sign there. So as long as everything looks in those forms, then you can go ahead and if there's no if there's no public comments, we want to open it up to anybody who came in for public comments on the grant, if there's any.
Is there any questions, comments from the board?
Just a comment of thank you so much to Mid-Coast Council of Government and to you specifically for spearheading this. And this was much needed from the Boardman Cottage, and we greatly appreciate all the work that you put in for it, Reed. We appreciate it.
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah, glad I could help. Glad they were awarded the money.
Anybody else here in person or on Zoom have any questions about the project or grant? All right, hearing none. I think we'll need a motion once we get out of executive session to sign all of these documents, but do you, I mean, I know that Janet shared them with us ahead of time. I guess the only question that I had about the documents is around the residential anti-displacement and relocation assistance plan. I know it seems like all of these are fairly boilerplate and not necessarily applicable to the specific grant, but I just wanted to, I guess, since it's implementing new policies and procedures on our books, I just didn't know if you could kind of speak to these and how they work with the CDBG program.
Yeah, so that's what that form is really saying, is that this project will not displace any people at the Boardman Cottage in this case. And so, for our project, it's such, relatively simple, appliances and heating equipment. But if it was a more complicated project that was, building housing or something, or a big construction project or something like that, it's just a formality with that. I know the language can be weird, but it's just it's just stating that our project is not going to displace anybody.
And I see Bonnie Hughes is online, I think perhaps representing the Boardman Cottage. I don't know, Bonnie, if there's any comments or that you wanted to add while we're in public comment period.
No, I don't have anything to add, really.
Well, thank you for joining us. All right, hearing no other comments, I guess the items that we need to sign after leaving public hearing is a fair housing resolution, a select board resolution, an equal employment opportunity policy statement, a residential anti-displacement relocation assistance plan, standards of conduct, and section 504 self-evaluation and transition plan for Janet.
Follow-up question. Reed, are you doing the self-assessment?
Is that the 504
Yes.
evaluation? Yeah. So yeah, Janet and I were working on that today, so we should have an updated version.
Perfect.
Should be ready. Again, if you want to, if any of the select board members want to review it, more, there's no, it doesn't necessarily have to be done tonight, just figure it, well, we're all here, and you're in the meeting, if you want to sign it, but you feel free to take more time to look it over.
Perfect, thank you.
You good?
Yeah, I was just thinking about it being, it really is boilerplate. There's no reason to expect there be any risk to a resident being displaced by this project.
Yeah.
But if there becomes one, that just says that we will do what we can or follow the rules and making sure that we remedy the situation. We're not exposing ourselves to. Like, we say it won't happen and then it does happen, and then we don't expose to a liability there, right?
Cool.
Okay, any other last comments, questions? Hearing none, we can't make a motion, so I would say we have exit public hearing at 6:07. And I would entertain a motion to approve these plans I listed out in public hearing.
So moved.
Second, excellent. All those in favor, Steve?
Aye.
Melissa? Aye. Pete?
Aye.
Peter?
Yes.
Shay? Aye. It is unanimous. Thank you, Reed, for
Thank you, yeah.
all of your work on this and coming here tonight. Today's the 27th.
Yeah, you're welcome. Yeah, happy to help. Glad to join.
It's great to see you next. It's sat here and then you could pass one that way and one this way.
All right, next up, ferry service update, and Peter Wilcox is here in person.
I don't have anything else to report, but I do, would like to get some feedback or direction from you guys. There are two issues that we're looking at. One is this whole idea of an alternate management system for the ferry service outside of DOT. And that's something I'm gonna be asked to comment on next Thursday, from tomorrow, when there's a ferry advisory board meeting. So I don't, other than the fact that I know we don't want to let go of the 50% state subsidy, whatever you want to call it, I don't think I have any direction from you guys on how to proceed, and I need that. The other issue that I do feel I've heard enough on is the idea of resident and perhaps senior citizen rates for the ferries. We do have a town member, John King, who thinks he's come up with a foolproof way of seeing who's a resident and who isn't. And I understand that you guys don't wish to do it outside of the ferry board, but I feel I've heard enough to push the ferry board to come up with something, so that's what I'll do. And as to the alternate, management system, I'm all ears.
No, first for me. I have a, what do you mean by alternative management
Well, the
service?
DOT, the main DOT has said on 2 instances now that they want to get out of the ferry business. They don't want to do it anymore. And so they're asking us to come up with a proposal on how to manage it. And,
Follow-up question.
yeah,
Have they looked into privatizing it? Like, not for the islands, but it's because I don't know anything about it, and it's my, like, former life of, if they don't want to be part of it anymore, then that would have been my next logical step, is if they looked at selling it. And were they just trying to give us first refusal at buying it before they try to sell it for privatization?
yeah, I don't think I know enough to say that one way or
Okay.
the other. I mean, I think I can say right now that they have never mentioned privatizing it. What's in their evil little hearts, I don't.
Okay. That was where I was confused, needed clarification, sorry.
No, it's good. For some reason, I thought that Melissa only missed one.
Well, as I spoke last time. I think the idea that the advisory committee is given additional power, recognition to influence what procedures, fares, island, elderly fares, whatever. You know, I think that's a wonderful idea. I think this whole question of public benefit corporation or privatizing or anything else is a not very complicated way in which the state is trying to find a way to get out from under their responsibility to pay for and maintain a public road, which is what the ferry service is. And they created this 65 years ago, and it is fundamental to the economy and continuance and sustainability of Islesboro and the other islands, but specifically Islesboro. And I think we have to be extraordinarily attentive to any suggestion that the current commitment on the part of the state, which is 6.5 decades long, is in any way going to be modified. I think that's what it's all about. That's what Commissioner Van Note said in his 35-page white paper. And I think it is just unacceptable to consider any other management approach which alleviates the burden of the state to continue to support in a major way this connection, this fundamental connection to the mainland. And so I would look very skeptically at any other management approach that in any way alleviated the state's implicit or explicit burden to support this.
Steve?
And I apologize for this noise. I picked the one corner United Club where families like sit down and party. But anyway, I agree with what was just said. I think we absolutely push back against any idea that we're going to make a change to the responsibility that the state has, number one. Number two, I think we should assign someone to speak to our lobbyists that we've used to talk about this issue and try to see if it really has traction in that department and, you know, to really find out where we're at. But I'm in complete with Peter. We have to stop this concept that we're going to make a change unless we know and can plan appropriately to make sure that we, you know, have a better approach. Because anytime you have a change, the unintended consequences end up hitting us. And I don't see anything positive that could hit us with this, with the cost of maintaining it. So anyway, that's my position on it.
And my perspective is, you know, when in the legislature, the bill that was to provide more, I guess responsibility or more oversight ability for the advisory board, was vetoed. And so did not pass, although a lot of discussion at the transportation committee was basically the right place to discuss this white paper isn't first to bring it to the transportation committee, is to bring it to the advisory committee and get feedback. And so my sense is that that is kind of what they're trying to do now, is say that they have done that. My general sense is to agree. I think changing the management structure is likely to be a losing proposition for the communities in the long term. However, I think, I also think they've brought it to the advisory board, and I think it is fair to them to say, you know, we don't support this concept. On its face, there is a tremendous amount of information and questions, and there's a huge process for even evaluating it, and what you need to lay out that process to even begin to evaluate this with the communities involved before we would even entertain the idea. That's my sense.
Amen.
I have a question. Has anyone looked into what Casco Bay Lines does? Because I believe that's some kind of a hybrid state and island involved organization. And it seemed to work well for the residents of the islands in Casco Bay. They have a senior rate. They have passes that islanders can buy to save on fares, that kind of thing. So I was just wondering if anyone on the Ferry Service Advisory Board looked into that model.
Well, I've looked into it to the extent that I believe they share a rate system, which is 45% from the state, 45% from ticket sales, and 10% from each individual island towards its ferries operation. That's my understanding. And that's really about it. I'm not ready to speak on what Casco Bay is doing, other than they seem to be doing that.
And the white paper that Bruce Van Note came up with basically proposed the creation of an island transit district similar to a Casco Bay Lines to run the ferry system. And again, my question, it just changes fundamentally it changes the decision-making process, it changes the funding process. And I just think that needs to be a very carefully and thoughtfully facilitated process, and I'm not convinced that DOT is the organization to do that, so I'd like to see how they lay out evaluating the process before they ask communities to say, what do you think about changing the system?
I decided with Melissa on this one very heavily on that. Unless we know what they're even thinking about proposing, how can we formulate any opinion or offer Peter any guidance as to what to say on their behalf? Right. So my question, Peter, would be to just, to answer yours, of give us some direct guidance, is to ask them what, we need to know what they're thinking before we can, before I feel comfortable offering any input on it.
You have to read that position paper that.
Yeah, yeah.
Governor Van Note, but
I mean, I
which
watched
was,
the meeting for 4.5
was.
hours, so.
okay, but it was couched and inspired by the statement that the costs have increased
Sure.
and that they can't afford even the 50% that they've agreed to pay. So it was financially inspired. It was not about how to empower people to, in the decision-making process. It was about how to pay for it.
No, I'm not saying that it was. What I'm saying is that regardless of the motivation, we don't know their alternative suggestion.
I don't think
So,
they have.
so we can't offer guidance to them about how we would react to a proposal that we don't know about.
Absolutely.
There's more work.
Yeah, but also like if the proposal is for the islands to get more involved, then we would need to be involved in the.
Right.
In the process, and so
But
to me,
we
it's
don't know
more
that.
about, it's more about the process, you know, what that process looks like than it is about responding to any specific.
Yeah, I would just think that if we're being requested to
Yeah.
provide some specific guidance,
Yep.
then we should know what we're providing specific guidance on.
Yep.
And I would just add that historically, the state's position has been that Islesborough's revenue ought to support the services to other islands, which is already.
Well, I mean, I think that it's their way of pitting communities against each other and then we all.
Exactly.
So,
Exactly.
I don't really wanna feed into that too much. But, I guess to Steve's point, I am happy to reach out to Genevieve and just understand if she has any insight onto ongoing conversations at DOT about this proposal. And I guess the other thing that I would just, that it is kind of operating in the back of my head is we have a governor's race that's starting, and depending on who ends up in the governor's office, we could have potentially a very different outlook on the ferry service. You know, there's a lot of candidates in the race. At least one of them has a tremendous understanding about the importance of the Main State Ferry service. So, I don't know. I would hate to fast track this discussion too much, while we're in the middle of a governor's race, I guess is my point too.
Yeah, I think that's great. I mean, yeah, this can completely slow off this thing is probably our best strategy.
No, we'll do that next. You know what, I'm just throwing this on, like, I'm still.
Is that helpful, Peter?
Yeah, that's clear as mud.
Pete, just don't, you talk very slowly. That's the way to do it.
Or don't go to me.
You have to, it's helpful to be around the table.
I have one question for Peter.
Yep.
Last meeting, you raised this question of the, fact that people couldn't get out of their cars if there was a ferry in it. What could anybody do about that?
You know, I talked to one, I'll call him senior member of the town. And he said, we'd agreed. His quote was, we had agreed to close our eyes to that problem. Because to enforce that with this ferry, the Maggie, would be so difficult that we'd lose. I'll guess to say 20% of the car places.
Exactly.
And, it's, I feel like. Without a doubt, the new ferry has got to solve this issue. Now, we may not have a new ferry for 5 years, that's really easy to see. But, at the moment, I have made the new director of the ferry service aware of the problem. I did it quietly to him only. I didn't bring it up in a meeting. It's a problem, and if somebody gets killed, somebody's going to jail. No doubt. And I would just hate to see that happen to us, so I saw the problem and I brought it up.
Yeah.
But at the moment, I'm not gonna do anything else with it. I'm gonna sit here and bite my tongue and hope that it doesn't happen to me.
Any other comments, questions on ferry?
the other thing to look into was like the High Line and the Steamship Authority down the Cape. They have a huge infrastructure. If the state could ever figure out how their operating system is. I mean, their ticket procedures are so easy to get through.
Yeah, I mean, I've talked to Mark Higgins, who's our old ferry director. And he's trying to come back here.
Yeah, he went down there, didn't he?
Yeah, he went
Yeah.
down there, out of frustration from here.
Yeah.
And then he got there and he said, whoa, it's much better here. So that's really about the only, I mean, I know that, Seattle has a big service, Alaska has a big service that is totally in shambles. Cause they haven't funded it and they cut off ferry service to some towns that needed it. So we haven't seen anything like that, but I mean,
The Seattle situation, which I have some familiarity with, is there's an enormous, the larger population that's using this.
and enormously bigger ferries.
And bigger ferries and better, more service, but no, my son's father has a house on Bainbridge Island, and, you know, it's a different story.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's more like the Staten Island ferry.
And
Yeah.
I know that that the Island Institute commissioned a study to evaluate, to kind of survey other ferry operating services, and that the Maine State Ferry Service participated in that study. So presumably they have that report and all the information in it to the degree that they
How would we get a
want to
hold of
use it.
that?
I probably have a copy somewhere, but I could certainly find out who at the Island Institute would have it, that could send it to you.
Okay.
The comparisons are really, one has to be extremely assiduous to understand how relevant any comparisons are.
Yep. All right. Anything else on ferry? All right, sea level rise update. The only thing I will say is that our next committee meeting is Thursday, September 11th, and GZA will be participating remotely to present the draft 60% design for the Narrows project. Oh. Any questions? All right, hearing none, Upper Island Public Safety Garage or Public Safety Renovations. Steve, do you want to speak to either of those? Or Pete?
Well, I really apologize. This is just not what I had set up. We do have a couple of topics, not issues, but number one, Lauren, is this the appropriate time to present the document on the health center that we wanted to discuss?
I think they have that later on the agenda.
Okay, I'm sorry. Yeah, okay. So then I'll stick to the Up Island. We did receive a contract. Kristen has asked to review. She's looking at the contract. She asked me to, attachment A, I've got to send her some stuff tomorrow. But we've worked out, the invoicing approach and such, so I believe we could have a contract ready to be signed at the next meeting, by the next meeting timeframe. So we've locked it down. There's multiple change orders that are lined up, but I think we're going to have a contract. So Lauren, do you have anything to add to that?
No, it's just great that you've gotten it this far, Steve.
So does anybody have any questions on that or would like to discuss that?
That they have it, that Kristen's reviewing it, and we'll talk about it in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Cool.
She's still waiting for information.
Cool. That's what I thought I heard, and then, something else.
What is, I didn't hear that.
No, nothing. We're good. Do you have any updates on the public safety renovations you want to speak to?
Yes, or public, no, not on the, sorry, it's very hard for me to concentrate. there is no update on the renovations other than I walked through there before I left for this trip. And it's moving along nicely. So other than that, we got Janet, go ahead.
I can just update that the painters finished today. Ronnie Glant is working on closing up the windows that will remove the sliding glass. And he's opened up the doorway for the closet to be. Then you have to put up that wall. I've put in a call to Kyoet to book in time for them to come out and do the carpet. Carpet squares like what are in the health center. They're the cheapest to put down in there. Painting, I think someone is coming tomorrow, maybe Ronnie will paint. There's gonna be a couple of walls that are gonna be blue. They're calling them accent walls in the, opposite where Carrie will sit. I have someone coming in to exchange the outlets, all the outlets from the old yellow to just white, just to kind of spiff it up. And I think after that, I don't know, when I get the painting bill and Ronnie's estimate, and then the carpeting, after those three kind of good sized projects, and we'll see what's left for money and what phase 2 will look like going forward.
Great. I see Fred has his hand raised. Go ahead, Fred.
Again, I just want to thank Janet for getting this going and making sure that all works moving forward. Janet, I appreciate all of your work.
Thanks, Fred.
All right, anything else on that?
No.
Oh, today my hand's on.
All right, hearing none, upcoming meetings and subcommittee reports, planning board September 8th. Yes.
Energy Committee, September 9th, Housing Committee, September 11th.
Great. Any other subcommittee reports that people want to report out on? All right, town manager report. Janet.
All right, I've given you the July 8th Energy Committee minutes, the July 23rd municipal building projects minutes. Under correspondence, I have received from Maine Municipal Association, we annually do receive some money back. So this year we've received a dividend check of $2,578 from the Risk Management Services because of our good performance and loss prevention efforts. I was happy to have that. I wanted to let you know, I believe the airport crack and seal is finished. They were going to be finishing it today, but I don't know with the rain if they were able to complete that. I heard someone say, did you say something? Okay. I haven't had time to write up there. I know I sent you all this, but I'm very proud of this check from Fred that Fred and I worked on. So I just wanted to get it in the records, but it's the FEMA reimbursement check of $513,194.46.
That's extraordinary. Thank you, Shannon and Fred and Carrie.
Yeah,
Good work.
it was that effort, wasn't it? Forums, meetings,
This FEMA, what's that for?
storm damage from January 10th, 2024.
You got some rocks up in it?
We've done it.
Oh.
And I just wanted to include in the minutes, we received our new license for the Dark Harbor wastewater, main pollutant discharge elimination system permit and wastewater discharge license. This is good for 5 years. And there were just a couple of things that they want now. They're changing some of their monitoring. And that's the only thing that is different for that. Where am I here? And Mert wanted me to remind people that this is finally the year that he's going to do the hose testing for the fire hose. It'll be at the airport on the tarmac, not on the runway. It will be September 5th. So I'll be issuing a NOTAM for that, but it's every 5 years, that's what his.
Doesn't he usually do it at the school before
Well,
school starts?
yeah, before
Just
school
got away
started,
from
they couldn't do it their time. They did have a date, but then they had to cancel for
Gotcha.
some other reason, so. Just to be out of their way.
I think Steve might have a question for you.
And maybe you're gonna get to this, but the last time we talked, there was the cutting the roadway back. We were able to acquire a service for that. Can you address that for us?
Well, Dustin Reedy will be doing West Shore Drive, and we were just, he's gonna wait for the most of the traffic to go. That was what he said to me. So it is in the works. He has been booked in for it, so I would say, maybe a week or so after Labor Day, when most of the people from West Shore Drive are gone.
All right, well, I would suggest, I mean, from what I hear, people are more concerned about getting it done than inconvenience seeing a few people driving on the road. So I would just get them involved as soon as possible. That's my opinion, but I'll ask others to give theirs.
But keep the workers safe. I'm
Yeah.
not worried about the vehicles. I don't think that's the concern, actually.
Right, I think
More
that
than-
the safety of the crews are more prevalent, and I think that. This is me speaking out of turn and I apologize, but listening to how many people get upset about bicyclists on the road and having to drive slow because of them, if you actually shut down the road to make it safe for these crews, would incite a small riot. And so I think that they're making a good decision by waiting. And that was
Yeah.
Doherty's recommendation too, of just,
Way back.
hey, let's not get ran over.
It's having enough people to
Okay, yeah.
do the traffic.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So we're on it, Steve.
Luckily, it's almost Labor Day.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
hopefully it won't be more than a couple weeks.
Perfect.
Hopefully, I mean, I can reiterate that to Dustin, excuse me.
Raise the question that I've considered very quietly, but increasingly, there are people who live on the island who have electric bikes. It's not just people coming from the mainland and merely, in effect, acting as if we're not going to accommodate bikes in any way seems to me rather short-sighted. I wish that there was a study of how to create dedicated bike lanes on the island. They're already paying a premium to bring their bikes over on the ferry.
Right.
And we could just be a little more realistic about a future in which bicycles, especially electric bicycles, are more and more, I mean, if you go to Manhattan, they're like everywhere, and pretending that they're just gonna go away, I think is a little naive. And I
think that
understand.
would be something really nice to put back to the Safe Roads Committee.
They're not.
Been disbanded.
Oh, that's right, after Dave. And
But,
Dave Hudson.
and I understand.
Yeah.
From personal experience as well as talking to people on the ferry, how difficult it is to have masses of bikes usurping the roads. I mean, it's not a problem.
We can't make the roads any narrower for vehicles to make way. I mean, then you'll hear from the truckers and.
We have,
Well,
I
but
got a total earful.
Well, I think it's a good, I mean, it reinforces the need to do this cutback so that there are places for along this shoulder for folks who are walking and biking and, that there is just more room for folks to move around the island safely.
Very well said.
All right, Janet, did you more?
That's it for me.
Can I,
Oh, that's not me.
can I ask one question about this DEP permit?
Mhm.
So it's for the Dark Harbor wastewater system
Mhm.
and we applied we submitted the application in December of 2020 and we just received the permit, is that? Okay, just wanted to make sure I was reading it right, and.
Well, it didn't expire until.
Until 20,
It just expired.
Okay.
So that was,
additions to. The permit and have we? I guess my question is just, have we had an issue with? Exceeding these maximums that are laid out here in the past?
no, but they've changed their. Cause we used to do I didn't wanna go through this weekend.
Sorry.
The fecal. We used to do that only for 6 months, I believe, in the summer, and now they want it done year round. That
Okay,
was
so it's
one.
more changes to their monitoring. I
Correct.
just wasn't sure if that was a result of us crossing some threshold that.
No, if that happened, we would really hear about it.
Okay, all right, that was my,
I'm really grateful to see this.
okay,
After.
great. Any other questions for Janet? Any other correspondence? All right, I forgot to say in the beginning, under other business, we're going to add an update on Ferry Road parking that Peter Rothschild's going to provide us, just for folks who might not realize that there's exciting other business coming. And next up, under new, we don't have any old business, so we're gonna go to new business, open and review bids for winter sand. And it looks like we have received one bid.
Correct.
Does anyone like to do the honors?
This is the only bid we put, or request we put out, is that correct, right?
How many bid we received?
Right, but it's also the only request we put out. I asked, because I had a question about this one sometime recently. And it sounded like there was more than one person who would put in a bid, but,
No, one for, oh,
well, then we have JPA. Vegetation Excavation. Putting in a bid at $26 per cubic yard for 1,000 yards of gravel. Picked up and delivered.
How does that compare to what we paid last year?
it was, last year was 28,350 and it was JPA last year. So what'd you say this one?
$2 a yard down.
It's down.
26 a yard.
Okay.
He's down $230 then from
So
last,
what'd you say, it was 26 what?
26 per yard.
26 even,
Yeah.
great.
All right. Any questions, discussion about this bid? Hearing none, would anyone like to move to approve the bid from John Applequest? So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor, Steve?
Aye.
Hi, my name is
Melissa? Aye. Pete? Peter?
Aye.
Okay, aye. It's unanimous, we don't. I don't see anything to sign, you're good?
No.
Okay. All right, next up, review position job description for health center facilities manager. I know we have a memo in our packet. And I don't know if Pete or Lauren, you wanna kick off this discussion?
Let Lauren start.
Okay, go ahead, Lauren. Welcome back.
Hi. Hello, everybody. Nice to see you all. Yes, thank you for considering this position tonight. You know, it's a new building, and we do have still yet some kinks, I guess, or you know, expected issues that have come up, things that have to be completed by Ledgewood before we can sign off and they can get their final check. And Pete Anderson is working with Pete McPherson and Ledgewood folks and Mark, and they're getting those things sorted. That should be, the punch list should be, and Pete can weigh in here, but that punch list should be completed in the next probably 2 or 3 weeks. And that will, at that point, we will have turned over everything that was supposed to be Ledgewood will now be the town. And there will be some ongoing things that need to be dealt with because it's a new building, sprinkler systems, generator, some of the things I listed in terms of ventilation and security systems, even including some things that will have to be the practitioners, the people that work in the building are going to have to be trained in. And then there'll probably be new things because it's a new building. And as we haven't had a lot of new buildings, but this is a new building and it's going to have times when we're going to have to put some money into it. And someone needs to be able to do most of the work his or her own self or supervise professionals that would come in and do the work. So we're trying to be proactive, thinking that while we're transitioning out of having the contractors and subcontractors, make sure systems are in place, that we're ready to make come along or ongoing expected issues in a new building that will need some of this kind of management. We also know that we don't know how long that will be needed. So we're suggesting that the town may want to have, the select board may want to have a temporary position in place so that as we go along, we can see, is this a 5-month need or is it a 2-month need? I would like to say that Pete Anderson has been the owner representative for the town during this whole process. And that's, it's an unpaid position. He's been doing it for a long time. It's requiring a lot of his time. So if that's any suggestion of what we may need in terms of ongoing stuff, even a fraction of that, I think it would behoove us to have somebody who kind of can focus on this building and these new needs that aren't something that are, we have the municipal building, but that's pretty well situated. And there are ongoing needs, but they are not new heating systems, new generators, some of these new sprinkler systems, some of these new systems that will need to be monitored. I'm not a construction person, so I'm hoping that if you have any detailed questions, that Pete or Steve can weigh in. And I noticed that Owen was there, and so if you wanted any insight into some of the things that still are being chased and how important they are to the practitioners, he might be able to comment on that too. But thank you very much for giving us time here.
Steve, go ahead.
Thank you. No, I think Lauren presented it well. The point is that Pete is going beyond what should be expected of an individual. Donate time, and this project needs to be brought to a conclusion, and we need somebody that can focus on it. And it's only fair to have that position be funded so that they're responsible and accountable to get this done. And the things that Lauren has brought up are significant, and I would suggest that we approve the idea of retaining someone to do this for a period not to exceed X, and then we can review it again if it goes beyond that.
Ledgewood is not responsible for finishing the project. And if anything happens, they're not responsible for it.
That's not what was said.
Huh?
That's not what was said.
Well, you have a punch list,
We
right?
have a punch list. We're working through that. We should be wrapping that up within 2 or 3 weeks. But beyond that, there are different items that the health center staff have asked for. There are things that, need to be monitored on a, weekly or monthly basis, and that's all that this job is about.
So if we have a building person here. Was that position available before?
Could we, did you say?
No, I mean, did you have somebody running this operation?
Very poorly was Mark Frick.
Yeah,
That's why a
but,
lot haven't
but
been taken care of and.
like these are people who have been volunteering time to close this out. And what we're proposing is, to have someone, get reimbursed some. It'd be like you finishing out trying to do, but they're holding back money and that's not a good equation, but I think it's the appropriate thing to do to fund this out for a few months to get it to finalize, because right now it's all volunteer time and that's not fair either.
Melissa?
Steve, do you or Lauren have an idea of which budget line you would propose that the money comes from to pay somebody for this? Or is it part of the bond that from the July 23rd, it looked like there was still bond money that was unaccounted, that had not been allocated yet? Are you suggesting that where does the money come from, since we didn't do this as part of our budget?
No, that's a really good question. I recall that we do have some money in the budget that could be used, the current town budget. And there's also some money in the specifically under the health center. There is some money available there too. And I did clarify that a little bit with Janet to see if that was accurate. And it's a limited amount of money, but that's one way to go.
There's $10,000 that we budgeted under Public Works maintenance and it's a new line for the new health center. Right. Or whatever it may come up, because we didn't know. I think I was thinking 20, but we did knock it down, just not knowing the first year.
Right.
It was gonna be.
Could that be used as a salary?
It could be.
Or could that be, or is that to pay the contract and put there?
It's all there.
Right.
Yeah, things should be under warranty for a year. I mean, so it shouldn't be, but we weren't thinking of a facility person at the time. I was more like, well, what's gonna happen with this building? Who's gonna, and I think it's beyond Jordy, it's beyond Public Works to go over there and expect them to maintain things. They can learn some things, and hopefully, assist.
There are some sophisticated new things in this building that someone needs to be educated, and over time, I think the people that work for the town would be able to take this on. But I think there's transition elements that we just don't want to mess around and end up with a problem. I'm trying to think, Pete Anderson, if you want to. It seems as though there was an alarm that went off, Owen. I wasn't involved in that, but there's an alarm that went off and they shouldn't have shut it off, but they did because they didn't know that they shouldn't. There's just some training issues. There's some getting up to speed in this particular generator and what you should or should not do. There are warranties that need to be followed through on. Yeah, apologies for me not knowing more about this, but maybe Pete would like to weigh in a little bit. But let me just say, I think that even if we only funded it for a period of 3 or 4 months, so that we can, and we can't anticipate anything and everything that's going to come up, but that would give us some assurance that we can make sure that we have a smooth transition. And again, there are some things that the practitioners are wanting us to do that are not covered because they were not foreseen by the practitioners when they first designed the building. So there's some things like a change in the size of the sink in the trauma room. It's too small and no one caught that. Everybody was doing due diligence, but no one caught that sink was a little bit too small, or that there needs to be some redesign of where some wires are. These things are no longer the responsibility of the contractor or Ledgewood. These are now the responsibility of the town. But getting the appropriate person that was involved in the original work, that knows Midmark, that knows the plumbers, getting the right person in the right place and overseeing their work, all of that needs to be done by somebody who really knows what they're doing. That's my pitch.
Lauren, it sounds like you have a person already in mind that, because it was very specific with knowing Midmark, knowing the plumber, knowing this, knowing that. Do you have somebody that you would like to recommend or that you're hoping would apply to the position?
Yes, I do. But I've also heard that there are other people out there. You know, when I floated this idea, I was approached by a couple of different people who said, well, I know just the person for this. And it wasn't the person I was thinking of. So I think there's more than one applicant out there. I think there's more than one person that could be qualified. I do not know if the fellow in the room by the name of Pete Anderson would consider the position. But I think obviously that he knows the systems and he would be a good candidate. So that might be worth some nudging to get that. But it needs to be a process. It needs to be open job, description, application process that anybody can apply, and it ought to be run by someone neutral in the office so that Janet doesn't have any feeling that, this is not above board or something like that,
I
So-
seconded it, Iron. Well, obviously, it should be you.
Just wondering, in the discussion of this proposal here, which sounds like it's been ongoing. Much like what Mike alluded to about whether or not there was somebody as a facilities manager for the town office building itself. I'm wondering if I'm sort of a hard sell on this idea just because it's a brand new building and I'm surprised that we're already planning for what sounds like some fairly important systems to either fail or go wrong, or which, knowing from my experience working in the school for as long as I did, Ledgewood construction projects seem to constantly find some new thing that needs to get fixed, and we're 10 years down the line of leaks and faulty things at the school. I'm hard pressed to believe this would only be a 2-month position. I also just don't, when it comes to government things like this, they say 2 months, and always like, look at the ferry service, we're 65 years in and now we're trying to back out of it. What happens when we get comfortable with this? The money dries up and then we're out of luck. So I would quell a lot of my concerns with this position if we figured out a way to create a position that covers either this building and the health center, or perhaps even municipally owned building, tie the library into it as well. And that we consider having, in addition to Jordy, who's our, town. What is the word? I don't want to say maintenance, public works super. That we also have a facilities super who perhaps is tasked with taking care of physical plants versus just roads and parks and, mowing. Is that something that came up? Has there been a discussion somewhere along the line here to make this a bigger position that we could justify being full-time and year-round and consistent?
I think you need a manager for this thing. You can't just have some random person run wiring and stuff like that, because that voids all insurance.
Right, I mean, well, that's what I'm saying effectively is like, if we're going to do this, which I would again say I'm not fully sold on the idea to begin with, whoever we get should be doing more than just that, but that I would be able to be sold on this, creating a municipal facilities manager.
A brand new position within.
And I'm not
Or-
talking
yeah.
to somebody who knows and I hate to put it this way, but the way that this is written, we're preparing the problem or hiring appropriate professionals. I'm not talking about somebody who's just gonna sit there and call out every job.
Yeah,
I'm with
if
you,
I
a
was
professional
professional,
who's,
I would put a new sink in there for you, and I would stand up and I'd
right,
do that. And if I was a town, I'd be very nice to Ledgewood and make sure they come back if something breaks in the middle of the night. Unlike the school, when everything goes to hell and then somebody else has to figure it out and stuff like that.
yeah.
So I mean,
Yeah, we should be holding Wedgewood to make sure that the minute that we sign off on this punch list. Isn't guaranteed, it's warranted, and it's.
yeah, and you can't have other people coming in working because that voids there.
Right, which I think also, I mean, it does speak to why having a facilities manager is helpful, so that we have the training to not void warranties, as the systems are brought online. I mean, I personally, I like the idea of having a facilities manager. Kind of writ large across, I mean, I think we have more buildings, we're building a new building and we should probably expect something. To be needed there too, although it's a much less complex building. Although I also am cognizant of the fact that we didn't build that position into this year's budget, and so, I would support. Starting, this position with the health center. Specifically recognizing that we don't wanna. Void warranties, and. With the intention that perhaps we could evaluate it and expand to a broader position when we know that we can budget the funds to do so.
I would say the proposal that could begin with somebody on a part-time basis for several months. I mean, it sounds totally appropriate to have somebody in this position, but I think the position will expand. If you have somebody there, they will expand their role as it will be self-expanding, I'm just saying, and it seems like the other facilities, the library, the school, so on, have all different needs and different amounts of need. I can't imagine what could go wrong with the library that would take anybody's attention at the moment, but there may be things. But this brand new building, which is going to experience some growing pains. And in terms of enforcing the warranties, that seems like a really important thing to support on a short-term basis. And then in the future, if we all agree that we need a facilities manager on into the future, that could be part of next year's budget, no?
Does the facilities committee, or Janet, do you have a recommendation for how much you would suggest? I guess, what is the amount that you feel like this is would take on a part-time basis? Or even on a short-term basis to evaluate?
I mean, how many hours a week?
Right, or how much money do you need? You've clearly looked at the budget. What are the resources that you feel like we could afford to allocate to this position?
I think keeping it cheap, but not free.
I think we cut her pay, give it to Pete. And then Pete can be in charge of all the stuff, cause he knows all the contractors themselves.
I guess just to be like concrete, like we have $10,000 in the facilities thing, like or do we think it's gonna take $10,000? Like, can we say $5,000? Like,
I would
that
say
we would
not more than
support
5,000.
It's not exceeding $5,000 for a part-time position for this, with the expectation that you come back in 3 months to evaluate where we stand with those resources and.
Because then we might know after
rest
a
of
few
the-
months how much time it would take, maybe once a week, or it all depends what comes up. So it's hard to say 2 hours a week.
I mean, I can speak to the way it happens now. Something goes on with the generator goes on, who knows what the problem is, the alarm goes on, I go in there and I turn the alarm off. And I don't know, then everything seems to work fine, but maybe it doesn't. And then what happens, Pete comes down the next day, or if I have a question, I call Pete, he drops down and he solves the problem or looks into it or gets somebody out here. I mean, I suspect all these problems will calm down. That's kind of the way it's working now. Pete's the go-to guy and he knows what's going on, and we talk to Pete, he talks to Pete McPherson or the plumbers or the contractors, and things are nearly perfect. I mean, we're on the 95-yard line, but we're just learning how these systems work, making sure that Ledgewood does all of the things on the punch list that they're supposed to do, which there are several. They're not major things, but they're a pain. And getting someone in there for, and I hear what you're saying, Pete, but right now I think to make sure that we have somebody who can show up and knows how things work, you know, Pete gets in his truck and he drives down here at 6 a.m. And make sure that the alarm system that went off last night is in working order this morning is really valuable. And, you know, we're just trying to, it's not something that I can do it and get by with it, but it's not right, because then I'm gone, you know, the next day. And then, you know, it doesn't get followed through on.
Yeah, I mean, this is,
the next
and
few months.
pulling Owen out at the middle of the night to turn an alarm off, that's just, I mean, guys, we can't be cheap on.
I'm not saying facilities
X
management
amount-
is a bad idea.
X
I'm
amount
saying
of, no,
it's
let
a
me
bad
finish the thought.
in
The thought
place.
is,
But before
it
you
needs-
misinterpret my words,
well, what we need to do, in my opinion, is to, you know, fund a very short period, and that'll allow us to see, you know, to have someone to drive down and not have Owen or others doing that in the middle of the night, and get these systems settled in. And, you know, for $3, $4, $5,000 over a 3-month period. And then we can see, you know, because this is going to be kind of, you know, the foreshadowing of the new building. We're going to obviously have, you know, some systems there. So I think it's a prudent way to have someone accountable to get this thing through the final steps. So so here's what I propose. I propose we do 3 months at, you know, I'll go up, you know, no higher 5,000, or we can do you know, 1,000 a month and then put in hours of $150 an hour, something, whatever you guys want to do, but you know, you can over the, you know, so there's a base salary plus actual work that's applied, or just do a flat rate. Anyway,
Yeah, I guess I would say, I don't know that it's our place to negotiate hourly rate or anything, but I would say it would be our position whether or not we authorize the position at the hiring of the position and kind of a what not to, you know, how much money to allocate at this point to that position overall. You have questions, Melissa?
I have a handful of questions.
Okay.
One, with the idea of bringing in a specific person, and I apologize, but right now you're kind of the scapegoat. So I'm going to continue to use Mr. Anderson as the scapegoat. If he is, if he applies for the position and accepts the position, we're going to ask this interim facilities manager to learn all of the systems, be responsible for the systems until the money runs out, and hopefully that he has trained everybody in the new building what all the systems are and how they work and how not to avoid a warranty before the money runs out. Is that correct? Because we're bringing in a middleman to teach the health center people how to do it. Is that correct? I don't know. That's what I'm asking. Yes?
Well, I say some of the things.
Right.
Yeah.
And then after that period, who is then the person that is responsible for it? Awesome.
Yeah.
I call it to it.
So. Not if somebody flushed a tampon and it's backed up and now you have this, Ledgewood doesn't care that there's a blocked pump. That's what I'm asking, is if there is a problem. If there's a problem in this building right now with the generator, who services the generator now?
Milton.
Milton?
Yeah.
Who
And they do
schedules
the
it?
school too.
Yeah.
We have an agreement. They come, I think it's twice a year. But if there's a problem.
Okay, so that's just kind of rolled in. That's not like a Jordy thing. That's not a Dave thing. If there is a backed up toilet in this building, who do you call?
Whoever notices it tells us.
Is
We
then
will call
responsible.
JT.
So that, to me, that provides a glaring hole. If Mr. Anderson is now the one that's going to train Owen, Dory, Beth, and the crew, the amazing crew. But then after the 3 months, Owen is still the one that has to call. I think that it is a short-sighted solution for a bigger problem that we have. And I don't mean that meanly. I think that it is good that you guys are being proactive with it. But I think that it does provide a lack of what happens when Pete's got everybody trained on the generator and this is what the alarm is and this is what it is. And now it's 3 o'clock in the morning. Pete doesn't work here anymore. Who goes and turns off the generator alarm?
This also said her thought was through June 30, through the end of the fiscal year, not for 3 months. I don't think.
Yeah,
3
I was
months
just
is
going off
gonna
of
get-
what was vocalized
Yeah,
now with
I
the
don't think
2 or 3
is
months.
Gonna get us
I don't know.
where we want to be. I mean, things, what do you think,
Well, we're almost there. I think we're close to being there, you know,
being where?
to having this building where we want it, you know, for the most part. I mean,
Do you,
thinking more about things like, you know, small electrical issues, the doors are still sticking. A lot of these things are still Edgewood's problem.
Mhm.
But we still kind of need an owner representative to help us get through those. You know, I mean, as
Right.
well, and then I think there's this, you mentioned a small design, you mentioned a small design problem, you know, that we want to rectify at some point soon. I mean, I think that, I guess I'm just thinking I'm thinking short term. I think it's great. You guys are thinking long term and I'm not, you know, I don't have any opinion on that. I'm just thinking short term to get us over this new building, growing pains.
Right.
That's all I'm here for. Is that, I think you're great, Pete, and, you know, think about the long term, but not at the expense of the short, what's going on right now.
right. I have one more. Okay. And I don't know if this is the appropriate time for this question, and so I apologize. As you being the owner, the point of contact right now, I know that it worked out because you were a volunteer for it and you were not being paid. What is the conflict of interest that we have if he applies as he would be reporting directly to his wife?
I don't think he's gonna,
Huh?
I don't think he's gonna report to me. I mean, whoever does that
He's
job.
not gonna be able to report directly to us because for the immediate things. Bed partners are fun and you can get an immediate answer from her, but I think that there's, I wonder the optics of that, if it,
They share.
does that cause us a problem? I don't know. And so,
I don't think he's gonna, I don't see him as reporting to me. I mean, unless there's something big that had to be purchased or something. but,
exactly.
You know, then that's normal if I needed to approve something.
I would think it's a question that we can find out how
Later.
to
That's in the
address
weeds,
in the. You know, if we get to the point where we would be posting a position. Recognizing that may be something that we need to address, we can. Make sure that the process addresses that proactively.
Cool.
Pete and then Lauren,
Oh, I was just gonna make a motion.
Oh.
But I'll hold off. My motion was gonna be that we table this. And get a little bit more information about the funding schedule for it, where the money's gonna come from. And what the transition out of this phase would be. You know, I'd like to, I mean, I understand what's being asked, but I think we need a little more information before I'm going to say yes or no one way or the other. So I would motion that we table this discussion until we get some more information about how we'll pay the person.
You should have the kindness of your heart.
And it's such a,
Maybe you apply. Out kind
they're
of.
gonna take money for clap, to see if it's.
Well, we know where the funding's coming from.
Well, we don't though. It
Well,
sounds
we do.
like,
It's the,
if we've got $10,000 that we can use some of, and we've got some leftover money in this account, but
well,
like,
we don't know about, I mean,
Right,
this is
so-
my thing, we don't know about leftover money from the, I mean, cause there's Up Island Garage and there's still that, so. I
Sure.
don't know if anybody's going to wanna take some of that leftover. Fund bond money for maintenance, you know.
Well.
So we have to do with what we have for this fiscal year.
So who's
John's-
who's gonna manage, like, if something goes off tonight? Who's gonna go, come out there? We're gonna keep having Owen do that? I mean,
It's
we're
not me, it's-
talking,
It's
few
been Pete.
all right, it's a few $1,000s for a few months. But let's go 2 months then. Just let's get someone assigned to it for a minimal amount of money. But so
Well,
if there's a
yeah.
motion on the floor, let's
Yeah.
vote on it.
I guess there's a motion on the floor. Does anyone want to second that motion?
I'll second that motion.
Okay, now, is there any further discussion on the motion?
The motion was that we
That we table it.
table it. I think what Steve just said is right, which is we have an immediate problem here. The generator goes down. Owen is, doesn't know exactly what to do with it or who to recommend this to. I think for a couple of $1,000, we're not talking about.
But still, the contractor should be involved in it.
Absolutely, but I mean, we have a owner's rep in the form of Mr. Anderson right now. It seems to me we want to extend that relationship on a short term.
Hire him for it. He has to apply it.
Right, but
I'm not talking about the mechanics.
He's the owner rep,
I'm talking about
Long Ledge, whatever, is the contractor, right? So they're the one in charge of all this stuff and brought everybody together. They should be the ones in charge of it.
But they're not gonna do that. Mike, come on, at 2 in the morning, are they gonna be coming
I
out?
get say about 2 o'clock in the morning, do things.
We don't need to hear about that stuff.
I go fix stuff, even if I built a house 5 years ago, somebody needs something, I'm there.
But there's somebody that's gonna call you up.
All right, we have a motion on the floor.
Say we have problems.
There.
I feel like what we've heard is that, the work of the owner representative, like that there we are at a transition point where it is no longer reasonable to ask someone to volunteer to do the work that is happening in an ongoing way. And so I mean, my personal opinion is, I feel like maybe I created the 3-month problem by putting that out there in an initial thing, but I feel like we have a little bit of money in the budget to address this problem that we understand to be a problem, and there are questions that we don't know about how long it needs to last for and how much ultimately it's going to cost, but I feel like putting some money aside now for this purpose, for the building, feels like the right thing to do, and to ask for that money to, and to ask for a report back. So that we can learn from it and what additional resources we may or may not need to put forward in the future feels responsible. I mean, I personally can't feel good about somebody saying like, hey, I've spent a tremendous amount of volunteer time on this. I can't do it anymore personally, and not having a backup plan or asking other people to take on that work in their own full-time jobs, like that doesn't feel right to me when we have some money set aside in the town budget. So that's my only comment. I guess if there are any other questions or discussion, and then we have to vote on the motion on the floor.
Is someone gonna write a job description for this? I mean, is this supposed to be a job description that Lauren came up with? And are we gonna post it now or wait for your?
Right now, we don't have any approval to do it yet, so.
Oh, okay.
All right, is there any further questions, discussion? Okay, all those in favor of Pete's motion to table this report more?
Tabling the motion for allocate, I think you should go ahead and find somebody to do this for 2 months.
Peter, yes or no is the topic.
So I would say nay to the motion.
Okay. I would motion that we allocate $5,000 to address this need. That money could be spent at any point throughout this fiscal year, and that we ask for a report back on how it's going and how the money is being spent and what the ongoing need is on a quarterly basis for this fiscal year to help us understand what the need is in the long term.
So I second that.
Any questions, discussion on that motion? All right, all those in favor, Steve,
Yes.
Melissa,
No.
Pete,
No.
I mean, I.
This is exciting. We have.
Democracy.
Well, that passed and we had
Yeah.
3 votes, right?
Well, I will be posting this
So I think we need
It needs
to,
to be redone. I don't know that you could post that as a job description.
yeah, I think there needs to be, there needs to be a job description that is written that, and I think before we, before it is posted, I don't know if it's more appropriate, I'm happy to have a conversation with Kristen. I feel like we need to lay out a process, recognizing that there may be some conflict of interest potential with applicants. I just want to make sure that we outline a clear process to alleviate those concerns going into it.
You sure doesn't want to keep doing it for free?
You're gonna want something less for 2 weeks and get more information and get it more clear, more clarified.
Doing all this R&D or things. That'd be easier than learn how to.
I mean, the motion is not to hire somebody immediately. The motion is to start the process. To allocate the resources. to
So
start
who
the
would you like
process.
to hire this person? I mean, I can advertise it, then do you want? You can choose somebody like,
Well, the paperwork specifically says that it would be the town manager and select board determining the hours per week. And that we would, and they would report to us or the now employee. So. I'm not a contractor. I don't know what hours it would take. I don't know what. The needs are really gonna be, so I don't wanna be part of the hiring process. I don't know that it's.
I know, I think
Truly our
when we
work.
advertise it, we'll say. We could say maybe 5 hours a week or 4 hours a week, but it will be fluid. I think it will change maybe, but we still can't go over a certain amount of money.
That's not, well, that wasn't my major takeaway here. My major takeaway here is that the position is described as reporting to the town manager and the select board. So following that, I would assume then that the town manager and or select board would be the ones picking the person. Or being heavily involved in it, correct? Not correct?
This actually says that facilities manager would report to the town manager, CEO, or other town employee. As assigned by the town manager.
After being funded by. All right, well then,
So, I mean,
Janet, you in
Dave-
charge, you hire.
Dave
I mean,
could,
What I'm getting at is personally, I wouldn't want to be part of the hiring process because I don't know what it is they're really looking for. So. If that helps you guys, we should pick it.
So could I suggest, because I feel like the motion that passed. Was not a motion to post the job description, it was to allocate $5,000 to address this need. That could be spent anytime over the next fiscal year. If you are not comfortable with the job description, I'm happy to have us outline a process and revise a job description that we bring forward in 2 weeks. Before it's posted. Does that feel comfortable?
Yeah, we just went from allocating the money to talking about how we're gonna post and hire for the job, so it seemed like there was.
Yeah.
Whatever that jump was made and. I agree, what you said was just to allocate the money, but then we instantly turned around and started talking about. The hiring process, so
Right.
I just wanted to clarify that.
I just sort of felt like there was no need to talk about a hiring process until we knew we had the money to even have a hiring process.
you're gonna talk to Kristen? Do you want me to? Send this to her? Did you want her to look at this as a job description? Or discuss some of the other things?
So I guess the Lauren or Steve from the municipal building project committee, is this what you're proposing as a job description, or is this something that you would like for the town to revise in a way that they're comfortable with to fill a position?
I definitely think that somebody else can do a better job of the job description. I think there's a lot of job descriptions. I ran this by Mark Olette, the architect, and he said there are lots of similar positions out there, and we could probably get a very good, much more detailed, much better description. That was Lauren Bruce just trying to make it as clear as possible what I saw as the need, and running it by Mark Olet and Steve. So, yeah, I think it could be written. I think it'd be written better, and I don't know that that needs to fall on the select board. I think somebody could do that and bring it back to the select board and say, do you have a problem with this? But whatever, however you want to do it, there are job descriptions that are put together by the town all the time, and then they solicit people who might be interested in a position, and they hire them. I think the key thing is that have the right person in the position, who's going to select this person. It shouldn't be Janet, but it can be somebody, including a member of the select board, but it ought to be somebody who understands what the work would be. Maybe it would be Dave Dyer or someone that understands this kind of stuff.
Right,
So-
no, I understand that. I guess someone needs to do it. And we need to outline the process, recognizing that there have been some concerns expressed that need to be addressed in defining the process. So, if that is something that Lauren, you and Steve would be willing to do as municipal building project committee members, that's great. I am happy to participate to the degree that is helpful in outlining a process that addresses potential conflict of interest policies. I just think that we need to have a point person to move this forward.
I'd be glad to work with Mark and maybe get a good job description, something that fits this particular, and I'm understanding that you want it to start with just the health center, but that doesn't mean that it might not, if the need arose that they wanted to expand it. I forget who mentioned that. I think it was Pete Anderson. But starting with the health center, and that could be geared to that, the job description would be geared to that. If that's correct, I think I can take that on, and maybe I'll run it by Steve after I get some preliminary stuff.
I guess, does it feel comfortable to the committee that has raised this need to wait 2 weeks for having the select board discuss the job description and hiring process before posting? Does that feel like a comfortable timeline to address the needs and concerns that you have?
Absolutely, that's fine.
Great. If you can come back to us then with a job description and process, let me know if you need any help with the process for the select board to approve at our next meeting.
Can I ask a clarificational question?
Yep.
Is Mark Olet our project manager?
No, Mark is the architect.
Didn't we hire a project manager?
Ledgewood did.
We have
Oh, we-
Ledgewood, we have a contract,
Who's
yes.
the person that Ledgewood hired?
Pete McPherson.
Pete McPherson, thank you.
Pretty much.
He's the
Well,
site, he's the site supervisor.
he will be done when the contract, when these,
When the
punch
punch list
list.
is done, right?
yeah. And when we pay Ledgewood their last payment,
Right.
he will be done.
He wouldn't be, I wouldn't ask those folks
No,
to.
I just wanted to know for my notes
Okay.
because Pete McPherson should be the person that is training whoever comes into this position on the generator, the sprinklers, the everything else. That would be the next logical point of contact because he's the one that knows it all now. Right?
He knows
Right, okay.
most of it, yes.
I was going off of Mr. Anderson's nodding. Sorry, Lauren.
He's probably trained you on a lot of things. and
Yeah.
He has helped, he
Yeah.
has helped him, and the Pete's are the only thing we're missing is Peter Anderson.
Well, I know that was a divided vote, but I hope that this addresses the concerns of the committee in moving forward to address the problem and addresses some concerns expressed at the select board about needing additional information to, and making sure that we're defining a good process. But that, it is what it is. Okay, next up, other,
Other question of how to address facility needs in all of the town facilities is something to consider separately from this. This is the growing pains of the new complicated facilities that we don't have anything else like it.
And I know going forward, Mert is interested in being the facility manager at the new public safety, unless you all feel there needs to be a job description put up for that, or if that's gonna.
yeah, I think that this is a larger discussion that I think we need to learn from, cause I mean, I agree, I think we need to understand what our facility needs are writ large.
We're
And,
already now at 2 people. You know,
are we done on this topic for now? And we'll make sure that we allocate lots of time for next.
I think just during
2
the
weeks.
season.
Right, well, 2 weeks, we'll start with this one and then we will hopefully learn from it as we move forward. With more budget season. Okay, Peter,
Well, seeing that it's 7:32, I'm gonna be very brief.
perfect, I love that.
I don't really, I had hoped to be able to just come and say, here's the proposal. Every time I turn around, this whole question becomes more complicated. Very quickly, though, we have a plan here for 23 spaces. We have agreement from it and that he can administer this. I think we're talking about a minimum of $15,000 or $20,000 in revenue that we can get from actually administering this parking lot. We have from the attorney and from the DOT acknowledgement that as the town has every right to do this. I met with Taylor Watts, who was a very reasonable, lovely guy. It was not contentious. He raised a new suggestion, which had never occurred to me, which was maybe he would be interested in entering into a long-term lease for his property. Which might be financed by the revenue from the parking spaces. And that's not $750,000 or anything like it. In the meantime, I also reviewed the parking regulations in the town administered lot in front of the ferry office, which is very irrational, to tell you the truth. The spaces that can be used for overnight parking are only available for one night. And then they have to leave, whereas the spaces along Ferry Road are used, months on end.
Right,
Nobody
for
has to
weekends,
get rid of
definitely.
them. And I think there's a lack of common understanding that this parking is fundamental to the economy of the island. It's not just how to give a contractor a place to park. I think we really need to work this out. I had the engineers do this plan. I haven't shown it to Taylor Watts, but I described it to him and we have a picture of it. There's also the possibility, which the engineers are going to study further, of removing some of the rocks that were installed on the north side of the road and having 45 or 60-degree parking, which would virtually double the number of spaces which would be available here. I have no idea, frankly, what we all feel about the importance of generating this revenue of whether or not a long-term lease on the property would make it more attractive. Is it up to me to come up with a proposal to make to you, which I believe in? I just don't feel like I have quite enough information here, and I feel like the arrangement, I met with Dave Pendleton, the chairman of the Greenville Park Parking Committee, and he has other concerns that have nothing to do with this and was not even focused on this. So I think we have the potential of coming up with a plan here, which would generate at least $20,000 or $30,000 a year of revenue, and would administer this, organize it so that it wasn't just the Wild West. And, you know, basically this plan, Taylor Watts cannot, I don't believe, can object to. Even he may object to it, but he will not be successful in objecting to it.
But he saw it and he seemed agreeable.
I wouldn't say that. I think if it were your property, Melissa, I would presume.
Oh, I'd find you
nobody-
kicking and screaming.
Exactly,
Yeah, absolutely.
but,
Especially if I wanted to sell my property.
and that is all he wants to do, is
Right.
sell his property. I think the price he's asking is ridiculous. And I've discussed it with other people who sold property along Quarry Road, and it's pie in the sky. But I think we have a choice between coming up with $300,000 or $400,000 to buy the whole property, doing this, which I think may produce. This, what I suggested is we will go to whatever extreme we need to ameliorate the impact on your property. Landscaping, barriers, so on. And basically, maybe he will shrug and say, fine, I don't know. As I said, I don't even think he has the right to stop it. So I'm a little bit obscure. I'm waiting to tell the town's attorney to draft an ordinance, which he says we need to suggest exactly how much it would, what the ordinance would say in terms of
Right.
fees and term or whatever.
Do we have an idea of how much the guardrails would cost?
Tiny. I mean, I think the pavement and guardrails on here, we're talking about, you know, probably less than $10,000.
Cool.
So I don't think the development is the question. The
I was just
question
curious.
is,
Yeah.
how do we want
To proceed.
to proceed? And, you know, I think this lease idea sounds like a great idea, but it's complicated, you know.
Very.
How do you do that, and what guarantees do we have, and
Do we have I don't know, I think you asked the attorney this, but we can put up guardrails on his property?
it's not on his property, it's within the state right
But
of way.
with it, I just wanna make sure that, cause I like the guardrail idea, I think that does help protect
Yeah,
that feature.
yeah,
I just wanted to make sure that before we put money into the paving for sure. But the guardrails themselves, because if then the property sells and they wanted to design a new driveway system or a new anything that just made it easier where they could get in and out. Would we then have to pay the cost to alter the guardrails that we've already put in, which I think we
I
would?
don't believe so. I mean, I think. And, you know,
And that's
as-
a way,
as
the
we
way
all
question too, and so,
I'm not an attorney,
right,
but
I just didn't know if
went-
you'd asked for
I
that.
went to the DOT. And Kristen, the attorney, also went to the DOT saying, we have no objections to you doing this in our right of way. This is not on Taylor and Watts's property. If he or somebody, and this plan shows the existing driveway maintained. Somebody else wants to move it, I think it's going to be up to them, not up to us.
It could be stones also, it doesn't have to be a solid.
I do,
Guardrail.
I basically actually slightly disagree with that. What they're doing right now, especially on the west end of the property, is he has put up big signs that say no parking, and people are parking perpendicular, encroaching on his property. And the advantage to a guardrail, which could be wood, it doesn't have to be steel, is that you can't do that anymore. And protecting the property owner's property line. So I think that that's kind of a slam dunk, and I would feel much more comfortable investing what I think is a relatively trivial amount of money in making sure that the state right of ways, the parking is contained within the state right of way, and nobody can change that without a chainsaw.
So it sounds like you were looking for kind of specific feedback from members of the select board. I just looking at the time. I mean, does it make sense to kind of put a couple of questions in an email for us to consider for, you know, to be ready to discuss at our next meeting? If what's
Well-
what's most helpful for you?
Unfortunately, I'm not gonna be, I will be on Zoom for the 11th meeting.
Okay.
I'm not gonna be in Maine, but what I'd like to do is to take this plan. Have Fred tell me what the ideal administration of this, the cost and so on. Give this drawing to Kristen, and have her draft an ordinance. Whether we then pass the ordinance or we go back to Taylor Watts and say we're about to do this. Make us an offer we can't refuse. I mean, I think this is an excellent negotiating tool.
Well, I mean, the first step is having draft ordinance language for us to review and discuss, and we'll need to have at least one and maybe two public hearings about it.
Yeah, at least.
Anyway, so I think
Yeah.
that sounds like a great way to proceed.
All right. Thank you for the purpose, though. I think,
Thank you.
thank you. I think that the only question which I think is really, I'd like to have answer, I asked Bill Lane at Garden and Door School to study the idea of having this 45-degree parking, which would double the amount of parking space. And I don't know what agreement was made about the stones on the north side. I know that
They were only,
Stephen Phillips says that he made this argument about sight lines, but we're not putting the parking back. We're
well,
just-
you'd have to make sure that parking did not go back on that side, because it does affect the sight line for that property.
Okay, but
Doesn't affect
okay, but
lots.
in actual, the minutia here is, we're just talking about moving the center line of Berry Road.
Do my eyes just glaze over?
We only need 3 more feet to do.
Well,
If you move the center line, won't that affect what you have here, though?
No. I mean, what I'm saying is that.
It would improve it.
Oh,
that
okay.
Then we
I thought we
can
were talking
park
about
like this.
Oh, okay, I thought we were talking about
No,
on
no,
this
no.
side, and I'm like, all I see is a gauntlet of, of people speeding, myself included, I.
Well, there are 3 other
But yeah.
issues that I have no idea how to deal with. Both Fred and Merck and somebody else who was there was talking about this stuff with 3 lines here.
yeah,
And
so
I
line,
think-
the third line for the ferry.
I think this parking along here, which is another 13 spaces, which is also state land. Nobody's paying for, and I think we ought to permit that as well. but as far as the mechanics of getting in and out of those spaces, it's.
Yeah, you end up, I think it's gonna be more headache than revenue. I really do, because
Okay.
as soon as you have people that park to do it, we'll talk about it later.
But they're already parked.
Yeah, no, you get stuck in, and now you
I
have an
know.
obligation to have somebody down there to get the vehicles out of the way, so nobody gets stuck.
I don't know about
I wouldn't-
obligation.
You don't think so? I paid for a parking spot, man, and then I get boxed into it, I'm gonna grumpy.
Well,
It's gonna be
the
like,
only
you
time-
can't be guaranteed.
The only time you're boxed in there is when the third line is being loaded. And what is it?
Or Memorial Day weekend.
No, but it could be.
Yeah.
But I'm saying
Yeah, no, I see what you're saying.
that, the people in the third line are moving.
Mhm. Yeah.
What they
Yeah,
were
is it-
complaining, what Fred was complaining about is that when they're waiting in the third line and somebody wants to get out of the space along the guardrail,
Right.
they have to move to let them out.
Yeah.
How often does this happen and how serious is that?
Holidays.
What?
I think it's only during holidays mainly.
Summer.
You know, I mean,
Yeah.
to me, I'm sorry, that just comes with the price of the room. It's, you
But I
know,
also think that leaving it as an unpaid spot
Yeah.
also provides an opportunity for those that might need to leave a vehicle down that doesn't have the extra money and stuff like that to do it. I think that it is looking out
okay,
for,
well, in that case, that's what I would suggest is that we rethink the 23 spaces that are on the town property that you can only park there overnight. And maybe we dedicate 6 of them for several nights or something else.
maybe.
You know, who's using this and for how long and when?
Right.
Well, and I think maybe once we have Kristen draft an ordinance on this, it does open up questions about
What we can fix.
what what we can fix with the other and.
Yeah.
That will require some public hearings and discussion to inform it.
Okay, I mean, I'm very sensitive and sympathetic to anybody who lives on this island and can't afford to. But by the same token, I am aggressively going after people off the island who are parking here, who are taking the entire cost of that and charging their wealthy clients. And it's a free ride, and the people who are gonna pay for this don't care.
Well, I mean, right now, even, an individual parking pass is something like $5 a year or 10.
Unless it's a business, then you're only allowed.
Yeah.
So what's gonna happen now? I'm confused. They're gonna be, I feel like, what comes first, the chicken or the egg? You just can't ask Kristen to write an ordinance. Are you going to give her direction?
Yeah,
Okay.
I mean, Fred, I'm gonna look to Fred to say what this should say. I don't know what it should say, but I think they're paying $400 a season to park in Lincolnville, and I don't see any difference between this. So the question is, you buy a $400 permit and you get a specific space every year. That's
They don't
nothing.
get that in Lincolnville.
No. But
You pay and
you take what's available.
if it's available, yeah.
Well, I'm have to say, I don't know enough.
But I agree with David Peldon, really, it would be nice to have that guardrail parking gone down. So that could be like the third line, so then there could be 2 lanes of traffic going down, you're not risking your life when there's double
Yeah,
2
there-
lines there.
there-
Yeah.
There are 4 lanes we're talking about. There's the 2 travel lanes in and out, there's the third waiting line, and then there's the space along the garden.
But there's not really 2 travel lanes.
Right, no, but I feel like what we're on now is more of like a workshop than.
Yeah, I need, We need a public workshop, I mean, and it needs to have the parking committee get involved here, I think, whether they like it or not.
Yeah, I mean, I agree, it does feel like having, but I think having something for people to respond to is more helpful than having open-ended questions. So I think we do need to have something drafted in order to have a thoughtful discussion.
Right.
All right, let us know if, I guess you won't be at the next, where you'll be remote, so
Yes.
let us know if in the 2 meetings you want us to add something formal to the agenda. Okay.
I'm gonna talk to Fred next about how to,
Okay, great.
and I think you're right. And Damit's point, we need to have more input. I have a more, I'm ambivalent about the parking along the guardrail. I think, if it's a problem in 1 or 2 days a year, this is not life threatening.
Okay,
There's another possibility there, which is that we widen the road and get.
all right. Let's move on to approving warrant number 26. Second. So, all those in favor, Steve?
Aye.
Melissa? Aye. Pete?
Aye.
Peter?
Aye.
Shay? Aye. Appointments, appointing Roger Heinen to the Islesboro Economic Sustainability Committee. Do I have a motion for this appointment?
So moved.
I have a question. I thought Roger Hyman moved off the island.
You did.
You did, but you don't have to be a resident to be on that committee.
Fantastic. That was my follow-up question.
And he's probably gonna do it for 1 year.
Yeah, that's what my understanding. I thought
That's what
that,
they get to work here.
Tudor is gonna take over. but that's not-
He is the chair.
He's the chair. This is just putting Roger on the.
Correct.
Okay.
That was my understanding.
Okay,
So moved.
second.
One, I don't know.
Any further discussion? All those in favor, Steve,
Aye.
Melissa? Aye. Pete?
Aye.
Peter?
Aye.
Shay? Aye. All right, I have no comments tonight. Pete?
Always good to see democracy in action.
That's it.
Sincere.
Thank you everyone for hanging in for this. For democracy skills, moving slowly.
Any. Troubling you with any more details, this and that.
Melissa?
School buses will be out in force tomorrow. Plan your commute accordingly.
Steve?
Good night.
Good.
He's not gonna be by the.
Motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Yay.
Hey, thank you all. Thank you.
Thank you.
And you've all signed the.
Carrie, can I still have a ride home?
Of course.
Thank you.
And you've all signed all the